With the MLB offseason looming right around the corner and the Seattle Mariners poised to make some big splashes in free agency, I want to talk about something today that I don't really know if they need to improve on by bringing in new personnel. The Seattle Mariners starting rotation in 2022 was one of the best that we'd seen in Seattle in a long time. They were a top 10 team in terms of ERA, and they were definitely above average the entire year, even setting some franchise records along the way. So with the Seattle Mariners rotation in 2022 being above average, well, if they're going to continue to grow and progress like I think they will, they might even have the best rotation in all of baseball in 2023. Obviously, the head of this rotation is Luis Castillo, La Piedra. He is the rock, the stone. He is that guy. For Seattle in 2022, after we acquired him from the Cincinnati Reds at the trade deadline, he went 4-2 over 11 starts with a 3.17 ERA. He pitched 65 1/3 innings and struck out 77 batters with an ERA plus of 1.17. A little bit lower than what he was doing with the Cincinnati Reds. Luis Castillo still balled out for the Seattle Mariners, and he even did so in the playoffs as well. He shoved against the Toronto Blue Jays, shutting them out over 7 1/3 innings, striking out 5. And even in Houston, in a losing effort, he only gave up 3 runs over 7 innings, struck out 7. He was still relatively dominant on the mound. Luis Castillo definitely going to be the ace of our staff going forward, especially with that contract extension that he signed towards the end of the season. Luis Castillo, he's going to be gunning for an AL Cy Young Award, for God's sake, next year. Dude has the stuff to do it, and with a full offseason working with the catchers and the pitching coach, I can't help but see Luis Castillo having a stellar season in 2023. Now, quickly, I want to take a look at his preseason projections on Fangraphs. I'm not going to kind of go into the details on how these projections are made, but overall, I'd say Luis Castillo lived up to the expectations based around his projections all year. They were expecting a little bit more starts out of him. He only went 25, and I do think that might be because, well, he got traded. So you missed a start or two in there. Overall, Luis Castillo had a 3.7 WAR. Based around his projections, that's what they had him as, but he also pitched a bit less than what his projections were, so his WAR could have been even higher had he made the normal 30-ish starts that a pitcher typically does. Luis Castillo had a great year in 2022, and he's going to only continue to grow on that in 2023. A pitcher who did not grow on his previous year with the Seattle Mariners in 2022 was former AL Cy Young Award winner Robbie Ray. We signed him in the offseason for a 5-year, $115 million contract. He won the Cy Young in the previous year with the Toronto Blue Jays, but in 2022, Robbie Ray, over 189 innings and 32 starts, had a 3.71 ERA. He went 12-12. He struck out 212 batters, but he only had an ERA plus of 100. The things bringing him down this season were the walks and the home runs allowed. Robbie Ray, if he can keep the ball within the ballpark and he can prevent runners from getting on base for free, he definitely would have had a better year in 2022. And I think with a full season under the belt in Seattle, with a lot of the pressure off of him now, knowing that the pitchers around him will have his back, especially the bullpen as well, and also bouncing ideas off his starting rotation mates, Robbie Ray, he could bounce back in 2023, and we could be looking at a dangerous 1-2 punch between Castillo and Ray for the entire season. I don't know if we'll ever see Robbie Ray be 2021 AL Cy Young Award winner ever again, but if he can bring down the walks, bring down the home runs, especially in the pitcher-friendly T-Mobile Park, I don't see why Robbie Ray can't bring his ERA down a whole 30 points, around 3.3, and still have those great strikeout numbers that we know so well. Again, taking a look at the preseason projections on Fangraphs, Fangraphs had him at a roughly 3.2-ish WAR pitcher, whereas he was at 1.8 with Seattle in 2022. Definitely did not meet his expectations, and in 2023, I expect a bit of a return to form. Maybe not quite like 2017 and 2021, but definitely a formidable left-handed second or third starter in your rotation. And if the Mariners had a top 10 starting rotation in 2022 with Robbie Ray being mid, if you will, I can't even imagine where they'd be if he was pitching up to our expectations. Before I get into the next pitcher, I just want to ask, have you guys checked out our merch store recently? We just had a new drop happen today, the first ever Mariners Mojo logo branding drop. It's got the Mariner Mojo logo on the front with a nice design on the back as well. We got hoodies, crew necks, t-shirts. There we got a black logo edition, a white logo edition. I implore you guys to go check that out. Link will be down in the description down below for the merch store, but you can also just head to our YouTube channel and click on store right there, and the merchandise should be there as well for you to select and head to the store through YouTube. Now, talking about a pitcher that not only lived up to the expectations, but blew right past our expectations this year, for me, was Logan Gilbert. In 2021, he had a 4.68 ERA over 24 starts. Didn't really have it all going for him, but in 2022, he worked on his secondary stuff, he worked on his mound presence, and across 32 starts over 185 and 2/3 innings, he had a 13-6 record, striking out 174 batters, and with an ERA plus of 1.16, Logan Gilbert developed into a great second or third option for your starting rotation. And entering his prime age 26 season, I can't help but think Logan Gilbert's going to get even better. Even with a bad month of August, Logan Gilbert had a great 2022 campaign. If he can replicate any sense of this as a number 3 or a number 2 option for the Seattle Mariners in 2023, that top of that rotation is absolutely lethal. A lot of the preseason projections here for Logan Gilbert definitely did not expect him to blossom like he did. He ended 2022 with a 3.2 WAR. Going into 2023, I can't help but think that he's going to continue to grow into a stud on the mound for the Seattle Mariners. George Kirby was an absolute stud on the mound. I said stud, I'll say it again, stud. Dude came up in the month of May and he shoved. Over 25 starts and 130 innings pitched, George Kirby had an 8-5 record with a 3.39 ERA with 133 strikeouts, only walking 22 batters. That strikeout to walk ratio is nice. He had a 109 ERA plus. George Kirby, again, if Logan Gilbert developed like he did from his rookie campaign into his sophomore season, if George Kirby sees any similar type of success in his second season, I don't even know what to say with the top 4 in our rotation. They are absolutely lethal. There's no way you're stopping them from going out and shutting down your lineup. They are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in terms of a starting rotation in all of MLB. George Kirby also did amazing in the playoffs, showed he had ice in his veins. He is unfazed on the mound. He shut out the Houston Astros for 7 straight innings, and he showed that fire in him as well when he struck out Altuve to end his start. George Kirby, he's got that dog in him. Now, the interesting thing that comes up now is we've got the 5th spot, which has a lot of question marks surrounding it. Marco Gonzalez was given that spot after we acquired Luis Castillo and Chris Flexen was moved to the bullpen. So does Marco get it to start off the year? My bet would probably be yes. Having another lefty in that 5th spot to start off definitely will benefit you. Chris Flexen, if he's going to be traded, it might just be for some depth positionally. If he's used in the bullpen, definitely will be used as a long reliever, or even if he's used as a 6th man rotation starter. Chris Flexen and Marco Gonzalez, having them at the back of your rotation is definitely not something to slouch at. But there's one more point I want to bring up, is that if Marco Gonzalez and Chris Flexen don't really seem to be working out for us in that 5th spot, well, we've got Emerson Hancock in the minors waiting in the wings just to come up and do exactly what George Kirby did in 2022. Emerson Hancock is expected to make his MLB debut in 2023 at some point, whether that's a September call-up or some sort of middle of the season call-up. Emerson Hancock is very similar to Logan Gilbert and George Kirby in that way that he was a very highly regarded pitching prospect in the Mariners farm system. Seems like we've been developing great starting pitching for the last couple years now. Now, Hancock has similar grades to when George Kirby was still being labeled as a prospect within the Mariners system. Similar grades, not exactly the same. The biggest difference here is difference in grading control. Kirby had a 65, which showed true in 2022. Hancock at a 50. So maybe if you can work on that control a little bit, definitely could see some more development from him in that regard. But Emerson Hancock, if it doesn't work out for Chris Flexen and Marco Gonzalez, I definitely feel like he could be ready and come up and provide a spark plug to the Mariners rotation when and if they needed it. In 2022, he did not have super great success with the Arkansas Travelers, our AA affiliate, but again, it's the minors. He's probably still working out some kinks on his delivery. He showed up and showed out in the Future Stars game. And overall, Emerson Hancock, if he's the 5th starter by the end of the season, I'll be happy with that rotation from top to bottom. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Where are you at with the Mariners rotation? How do you value each of these pitchers going forward? What I want you to check out on the screen right now is our top Mariners targets for free agency. This offseason, it's going to be a huge one. It's going to be a banger. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens this offseason, it's still go Mariners.